Welcome back to Let's Play Higurashi Matsuribayashi. Yeah, really. Really just, like, I was editing for Digimon World Next Order. I finally got around to starting recording on that. It's the 31st today, so, it's been about 12 days since the last record session. Doesn't matter either way. So I was like editing for that, and as I was like saving the file, I was like, oh, it's going to take a while. I'll just watch some YouTube videos in the meantime. And for whatever reason, it's like in my recommendations, you know, while watching a geographics video, I was like, okay, something about like the one flaw in math. And I think I've come across that channel that did the video before. I can't remember what for, but all the information in that 30 odd minutes video went in one ear, out the other. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm in a classroom, even though it's probably interesting and all. I just went straight from one side to the other, and I'm like, so what was the answer to that question in the title? I don't know. Anyways, I didn't do a word for the day in the previous record session. I only noticed it when editing. So what I'm going to do is I'll have a word of the day here, and a word of the day at the end of this record session, if I remember to. Man, this music's making me a bit sleepy as well. Could use a nap, you know. Where is it? I think I've done this as a word of the day before, but nonetheless, nemui, sleepy. Because that fits my current state right now. I'm like, Anyway, let's see. What we got? We haven't got that. Shit, what have we got? Maybe? Possibly? I mean, would her revenge count as what she did to Rika's mother? I don't know. Let's try this one. Fragment can't be connected yet. Wait for it. Smash! Okay, what about June 1983? Nope. It's like, sorry, can't do that right now. All these ones require the game boards to be set up. We haven't got that far yet. I mean, since these aren't highlighted, does it mean this one? But that doesn't make sense because we haven't got any of those. What? How? I don't remember. I mean, Rika had the fever, but I don't remember the Juro one. Or maybe it was. Tomitake did. And I just forgot. Anyways, Takano-san always comes along with me whenever I go take pictures on a stroll. She might have discovered the joy of cameras, and I'm happy to gain a friend who shares the same hobby. However, it is actually something else she's much more interested in. That would be the history of Hinamizawa. She frequently visited libraries and local archives to read through various documents and books, and when it comes to Hinamizawa, she's gained quite extensive knowledge of the local history. Hope my fan isn't like interfering with the sound quality of the microphone here, because it's like facing right towards me. When she's in a good mood, she tells me about things like how Hinamizawa used to be called Onikafuji's village, and how the villagers there used to perform various cruel ceremonies based around the worship of Oyashiro-sama. Seems she loved tales of violence, and that actually gave her a mysterious charm. Just like you into, like, very gory horror films or something by chance. On the other hand, I don't do well with grotesque things, so I can hardly say anything in response. The stories of cruel ceremonies that she gets excited about, I don't really get them all that well. However, with the way her eyes light up when she talks, I don't mind spending time with her, even if I have to hear about cruel things. You sure you like looking into that stuff, don't you? Sure, it's fun. It's thrilling to unravel the dark past that was sealed away. Don't you think so? Dr. Sen smiled in a way that almost made it sound like a dark past is something fun. But of course it isn't. The dark history of him is that she loves is something cruel and atrocious, like the witch hunts in the Middle Ages. Besides, they help me in researching Hifumi syndrome. You don't have to always look through microscopes to research things. Sometimes the traditions of this village have spent so long with the parasite that can teach us things that are far more valuable. That's true. Boy, you sure are passionate about this. That's because research gives my my life meaning. Step into the unknown and to uncover a secret nobody else knows. Don't you think that's wonderful? Thought I was gonna get an interruption there. Anyway, where was I? To step into the unknown and to uncover a secret that nobody else knows. Don't you think that's wonderful? It tickles my intellectual curiosity. That's probably the greatest entertainment available to humans, who can feel joy just from thinking. First person to work on this, Dr. Takano, must have discovered something fascinating enough to make him devote his entire life to the research of this syndrome too. I think I'm probably the only one who could understand his feelings. I suppose it would be too difficult for you, Jiro-san, since you're not a researcher. Well, she more than knows that because she was there. She always seems so enthusiastic every time she talks about the late Dr. Takano, an independent researcher who was the first person to discover the existence of the syndrome. There has to be something more than just her admiration as a researcher, almost like they were related, except not by blood. Come to think of it, Takano's full name was Hifumi Takano. I understand his full name is Mio Takano. Not only are their last names pronounced the same, but their first names follow a similar pattern. That was intentional on her part. They must be connected somehow. I don't know anything about Takano-san's personal history. There's a good chance that her last name is an alias. So it's very possible she chose a name to reflect the researcher she admires. I see, so is that why you chose that name? What? Well, the name of the researcher you look up to is Hifumi Takano, right? And your name is Mio. In Japanese, it's like you're counting upwards. You're counting the research he hasn't been able to complete, so I thought maybe that's why you have that name. Who told you that? No. I just thought of that now. I didn't hear it from anybody. You're correct. I'm surprised you figured it out since you're so dense. Well, not as dense as, the average, visual novel protagonists, I suppose. I know you admire Dr. Takano, and sometimes you've spoken as if you were his daughter or a granddaughter who inherited his research legitimately. That's why I said that. Even authors like Ranpo Itagawa use their pen names as homages towards authors they admire as well. So I thought maybe the name you use is like your pen name, No, that's not so. Mio Takano is my real name. I write my family name differently, though. Yeah? Then it really is the exact same family name as Dr. Takano. That's even more of a surprise. And Mio is your real name too. No, it's not. Mio Takano continuing Hifumi Takano's life's work. What a fateful coincidence. It's actually Miyoko. I forget what her real last name was, though. You're overstating it, Jiro-san. This isn't fate of any kind. He's my grandfather. What? This is news to me. Takano-san discovered documents about the Hifumi syndrome left by Dr. Takano after his death and decided to continue his research. Never heard of them being related before. Someone told me I'd leave a bad impression if I asked for money to continue my grandfather's research, that people may think I'm trying to pull funds for a family matter. That's why I changed one of the characters in my last name. Solda and Uncle Koizumi, you're the first person I've told this to. I see. I didn't know. So that's why you're so passionate about all this. I understand very clearly now. She really did inherit the work her grandfather was unable to complete. My grandfather researched Hifumi syndrome not only from a medical point of view, but through old documents and literature as well. Looking for the old stories of a village that has been living with the syndrome for hundreds of years can be far more valuable than looking through microscopes that magnify things hundreds of times. My grandfather taught me that. I see. I'm sure your grandfather is happy that you're finishing the work he couldn't. I bet he's really proud of you. I hope so. Well, he probably won't be so proud of the extremes you go to. I said something Takano-san would normally tease me about, but she didn't. She nodded and smiled. There's no mistake. She's indeed the granddaughter of Dr. Takano. The adoptive granddaughter. My grandfather is Hifumi, which means 1, 2, 3, and I'm Mio, which means 3, 4. Following after my grandfather, we would only counted the 3 together. We have only counted the 3 together, and counted the 4 after my grandfather. Must reach the 5 that neither me nor my grandfather has seen yet. That is my duty and the reason I was born. So that's why your name is Mio, huh? I think that's a beautiful name. Thank you, but please keep the granddaughter issue to yourself. My clients don't even know, and I don't want any unnecessary problems of them finding out about it. Sure, okay. So the secret between you and me, huh? Though it's only a small secret, it feels good to think that I'm the only one who knows about it. Well, you're not, because Koizumi knows about it too. I've only counted to 3. I haven't even reached 4 yet. The path before me is long and rough, but I will do it. I'll expose the secrets of Hifumi syndrome. I'll support you. That's my job in the first place, isn't it? Geez, you'd sound pretty cool if you didn't tackle on things like that. But I need to say that you'll support me now. Okay, I'll support you. It's too late. You're not cool if you can't get it right the first time. We laughed cheerfully together, and after we finished laughing, she became serious again and spoke as if to drive the point home. So remember, Jiro-san, don't tell anybody that I'm his granddaughter, okay? Okay, I promise. It's not a bad thing, but I don't want the clients to cut off funding because of that. I don't think they will. Besides, I won't tell a soul. Are you sure? Are you really, really sure? This research is the entire purpose of my life. My mission is to complete my grandfather's work. To prove that his trampled research is actually something amazing that will shock the world and to make everyone praise my grandfather, who is perishing away under the earth, eventually having him ascend as a god. Good gods, man. I mean, commas and shit I don't really tend to pay attention to when reading half the time, because I just read it without the pause. But look at that. To prove that it's blah 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 till the next comment. That's a fucking long ass sentence. That's the meaning and purpose of my life, Shiro-san. If you say something that creates problems by research. Don't worry, I'll forget everything you told me here. In particular the bit about the ascension to godhood thing, that was a bit weird. Really, I mean it. I won't say anything. I promise. I won't say anything. Are you sure, Jiro-san? I sensed something frightening within her for a moment. Afraid that she would end up possessed by it, I swore to keep the promise. Her intellectual curiosity as a researcher and her conviction to complete her grandfather's work are what stirs her passion for researching Hifumi syndrome. I think there's one more reason, but it's far too deep, and it's within a wound in her heart that someone like me should never touch. But earlier, she said, if you create problems for my research, I wonder what she wanted to say after that. Oh boy, you'll find out later on, Tomitake. I can't help thinking she wanted to say something terrifyingly merciless. I kept my promise with her, and we never talked about the issue again after that. Yeah, even with all that, he's still like, oh man, but Takano, man, I was so attracted to her. Even though she's clearly out of her mind and ruthless. Okay, neither of these two are unlocked. So, where do we go from here? Oh, that one's unlocked. A roll of 1. Balawan, Tomitake. Yeah, that's the one we were missing. The promise. We already got the manual, the toast, and now let's do this. A roll of 1. It happened so suddenly. Uncle Koizumi passed away. Well, that was sudden. just go from that scene where it's like, oh, the only other person that knows about her being the granddaughter, adopted granddaughter, I suppose, of Hifumi Takano was Koizumi. And then, in the next scene, he's dead. I never heard he was ill or wasn't feeling well. His chest started to hurt suddenly and he couldn't sleep. He called an ambulance for the first time in his life because he didn't think he could endure the pain. He was taken into emergency care, but he didn't live to see morning. It was an acute myocardial infarction. I can't pronounce medical terms for shit. You know, medical words for shit. Maybe if it was the best possible way to go. Instead of being in bed for many years, slowly dilapidating and withering away. Dilapidating, I mean. Not dilapidating. There's different words. He was healthy until his death, so I think he must have lived a wonderful life. But still, it was too sudden. I wish I had called him Uncle more. It's too late, though. Uncle Koizumi would never smile at me again with his wrinkly old face, no matter how many times I called for him. He was my guardian until now. He always looked after me, making sure my efforts received proper recognition. Maybe he only did that because he couldn't help my grandfather when he was alive. But still, he was an important person to me. He wasn't just my political backing. But I didn't realize that when he was alive. I only thought of using his power for my own agenda. But after he died, I realized Uncle Koizumi was my grandpa too. He provided the warmth and protection that I longed for from my own grandfather. At his funeral, I shed tears that I thought that I forgot how to. Uncle, thank you for everything. I should have called you Uncle more, huh? No matter how many times I called to him, he would never reply. What I can do for him at this point is complete my research. I must accomplish my goal for his sake. And my grandfather's research is finally acknowledged. Uncle Koizumi's name will be known once again for being the sole supporter of his endeavor. I believe that's the best way to repay him for everything he has done. I vow to devote myself to my work even more from this day on. But, unfortunately, hardships and sadness tend to come together. It was like the tailwind that blew steadily until today suddenly became a headwind. The wind shifted far too suddenly. So strong, so cold, so sad. What are you talking about, Jiro-san? Well, you know that Koizumi-sensei was the main political sponsor for the Erie Institute, right? He had trouble getting approval from the related agencies, but Koizumi-sensei used his political weight to force it through. After all, he was one of the key figures in the post-war restoration, accomplishing tremendous deeds in the medical industry. He held a huge influence in politics and industry. So now that Koizumi-sensei is gone, the way he did things won't work any longer. So far it's only a rumor, so I don't know for sure. But I heard they're going to reconsider the budget allocated for the project. Are you saying the Erie Institute will be closed down? No, I haven't heard anything about them reconsidering the institute. But since Koizumi-sensei's death, the rumors say that there's a great deal of confusion among the old guard and their factions, as well as the civil strife within the party around finding its successor. Seems the opposing factions are gaining influence in the human resources of our client. So they may begin to dig deep into the holy treasure chest that the Koizumi faction held to fund their projects. Of course, this is all too complicated for me to explain that well. And besides, these might just be rumors. Jiro-san kept saying they were rumors, but that told me the wind's direction was changed. Or maybe Jiro-san already knows everything and is simply trying to warn me about it. And then at our next routine audit, Jiro-san made it clear with his own mouth. High-ranking government officials who had never come here before came here before attended a routine audit along with Jiro-san. Just by seeing those faces, I can tell the turning point is approaching. As you know, the Alphabet Project was created to strengthen post-war Japan's presence in the world with the view of developing deterrent weaponry. However, the 21st century is now just around the corner. In this day and age, we must put the past behind us and start looking forward to a new world. He meant exactly what he said. Japan had already put the past behind, and it's cutting off its ties to the ghosts that wish to resurrect the militaristic might of the pre-war era. It's been 40 years since the end of the war, and we've contributed to the world in various peaceful ways. We have a strong alliance with the United States, and our nation has established its position in world affairs well enough. We have kept our promise to forever renounce war and nuclear weapons, and we are known as a nation of peace. In this coming century, our presence and influence will grow even larger. I wonder... It might actually... I don't know. If I can even find it, I don't think so. No, it's right there. America. Of course, you know, it's the United States of America, so it's like, no, something. So, you know, for United States of, we probably have the kanji character, but America, you just got the katakana. You know what I find odd is that when you saw 40 there, it was just a number. But they actually do have, you know, kanji characters for numbers, but I seem to be like, they don't tend to use them much, especially during dates and stuff like that. They do use, you know, the kanji characters for them, but it's never seems to be for stuff like that. It's like, oh, it's like this, it's like, oh, that was 40 years ago. They wouldn't use kanji characters for the 40, they just use the number itself. Alphabet Project, the main sponsor of the Erie Institute, are a group of people who want to develop a weapon that would act as a deterrent to the nuclear weapons which Japan has forbidden to own. So they've come to the Erie Institute, one of its branch organizations, to tell us Japan has now renounced nuclear arms. So the Erie Institute will be facing a strong cold headwind from now on. The roll of the die that came up with one on that stormy day has reappeared. I won't let the result of a die affect me. The power of my will won't be beaten by some god's roll of the dice. Therefore, we are going to restructure the Alphabet Project to one that's more suitable for the day and age. This new Alphabet Project will be tasked with figuring out the best way for this country to achieve a larger presence in world affairs, not through militaristic means, but through peaceful measures like international trade and economic development. All the people who hold tremendous influence in the politics and economy of Japan were born before the war, so naturally they want to regain the glory of pre-war Japan. The very idea that we can win next time if we research a new bomb that's defeated us in is itself a specter of the war. No, everyone already realized that. It was just that no one could speak out against the grandstanding elders they owed their gratitude towards. Soon the old will wither away and the new generation will take control. Uncle Koizumi was, in a way, the last remaining pillar for the old generation. His death is a chance for the new generation to step in. Things they couldn't argue openly are now being discussed. They pointed out that from the beginning, the Alphabet Project was created for the personal satisfaction of a small group of people, and it sucked money out of the treasury. And so the new generation of politicians have taken over from the old. Therefore, everything the Alphabet Project was sponsoring will have to be re-reviewed. Of course, the Erie Institute is one of those subsidiaries. Probably pronounced that wrong. We hope that you'll understand and respond amicably. Pronounced that probably wrong as well there. I understand. We can't do research without our sponsors after all. We'll give you our full cooperation. Erie responded appropriately, but he's obviously bewildered. The best equipment and staff are being provided to the Erie Institute. In other words, our research requires a huge amount of money. For those with no interest in Hifumi syndrome, they probably won't be able to understand why that much money is being put into the research of disgusting parasites. If they are simply going to revise our budget, that would be fine. We would receive more than enough money. That would naturally be adjusted. It hurts, but we can endure. That's what I thought. If just enduring it was enough, it wouldn't be a 1 on the die. So even in that sense, this is definitely a roll of a die coming up as 1. It's like, now you know how Rika feels, man. She's always getting the 1. She never gets the 6. So who's talking now? Because Tomitake isn't on screen. Maybe it is Tomitake or one of the people that came with him. I'm just going to voice this Tomitake regardless. Anyway, the new board of directors was inaugurated back in April, and they've outlined their new policies for all projects. For more details, please look through the papers I'll be handing out. These papers were then passed around. Started to go over the details, but I read through quickly so I could learn about their stupid decisions first. The Erie Institute has made great headway in uncovering the mystery of the Hifumi syndrome. As well as creating a cure for the disease, the board of directors is extremely pleased. We recognize this is due to the unceasing efforts of Director Erie and all the staff of the Erie Institute. Thank you. Even while he received their congratulations, a tense atmosphere surrounded me and Erie. That might just be one of the other people that's with Tomitake. It's customary to start the conversation in the opposite way you're planning to take it before delving into your main point to convey. If the main issue is something good, then start with something bad, or vice versa. The Erie Institute had 2 main intentions. One was to study the disease and hopefully find a cure. The other was to research the possibility of utilizing the disease for military applications. The new board of directors has decided to put a stop to the latter immediately. In this day and age, research in biological weapons is an Achilles heel for Japan. The Erie Institute must cease all related research and destroy any results. I understand. I will comply. Erie replied with that immediately. Erie was assertive about finding a cure, but was never even remotely interested in researching the disease's use for military purposes. So I'm sure he has no qualms about concurring with such demands. But I don't agree, because our research will be more limited if we're just trying to find a cure. To me, finding that cure is simply a byproduct of my logical goal of discovering everything about the syndrome. Also regarding the Erie Institution, we have decided to have you wrap up your work within the next 3 years. Your budget will decrease gradually as well. Wait, please, we've only recently figured out anything about the syndrome, and there's more we have to learn in order to create a better cure. We're making progress, but I can't guarantee we'll come up with a complete cure within 3 years. It's the understanding of the board that the Erie Institute has already completed enough research to develop a cure. The Erie Institute has already completed the C117 vaccine and has a great deal of clinical data. No, it's not even close to being completed. It's still only a prototype. We're far from being able to see a cure for all the villagers. Awaiting the end of our research at this stage can only be described as absolutely positively reckless. I'm surprised that Erie objected. Thanks to him, I didn't have to say anything. But if Erie hadn't objected, I'm sure I would have shrieked in protest. In other words, the Erie Institute is not yet capable of curing all the people who are infected or to fully eradicate the syndrome. Is that correct? Yes, of course, curing all the villagers and eradicating the syndrome will be possible in the future, and that's our ultimate goal. But I need more time and, of course, funding to do that. Our job is to investigate, find a practice that works, and establish it as a product. This isn't a job where you can follow a blueprint to create something with certainty and a set time frame. So we hope that you'll avoid following that misconception. I guess he speaks out when he needs to. And what he's saying is absolutely right. Research isn't something guaranteed to produce results with money and time. But I disagree with some of the things he said, of course you do. He's objecting about the time and the money, but he's basically agreeing to limit our research only towards finding a cure for Hifumi syndrome. That won't do. We won't unravel any mysteries that way. At that rate, the discovery of the Hifumi syndrome won't be recognized as my grandfather's great achievement. They'll just be like, hey, did you ever hear there's one crazy disease, right? But then they found a cure for it, so it's fine now. And it's just like, but it wasn't all the chaos of it all. I see. I think I see your point. Our main purpose here is to dispose of the fact that this research was conducted for military purposes. So we must forever hide the fact that research was conducted on a strange disease called Hifumi syndrome, as well as hide its existence. The exact opposite of what Takano wants. If you can eradicate the disease without anyone ever learning about it, then we will give you the time and funding you require. But we'll discuss more about that later. Is that acceptable? Yes, I have no problem with that. Then please submit a plan and a budget proposal for eradicating the syndrome in secrecy. We'll do our best on our part to approve your proposal. Thank you. I'll work on it immediately. Please don't misunderstand that it's our intention to halt the research immediately. We want to see the best possible outcome for your work. Please understand that. Yes, of course I understand. While I was listening to that conversation, I was struck dumbfounded with something they said. Eradicating the syndrome in secrecy. In other words, it would have to be as though Hifumi syndrome never existed. So my grandfather's name will never be revered by anyone. A sound of rustling papers and hushed proceedings filled the meeting room, but I only heard the ticking clock as I clutched my sweating palms. She hasn't even said anything in that scene. Is this gonna end like that? She's not even gonna flip out? I mean, she's gonna flip out probably in the next scene. Now it's like, it's been years since I'd read through all the novels. It's been years since I started Let's Playing them, so I've been reading them over the past years. But what I mean is, when I first read the novels years ago, close to a decade by now, probably. And, since it's been that long, I've, kind of forgotten how some things, play out. But now I'm starting to be like, okay, this is definitely how, Takano ended up going down that path. Because, things were going very far south with their funding. So she went for more drastic measures to make her grandfather's research and all that be known and admired or some shit, whatever the hell she wants. Disappointment and deja vu. Those are the only other ones. Yeah, and then we'd be able to finally move on to these.